going on, guys? Today I'm back with an amazing and beautiful JavaScript project. So this is basically a digital counter, which, as you can see, is used to increment and decrement data up to 0, and also the numbers can be incremented up to infinity, and we can also reset it by clicking this button. So yeah, that's it. Its UI is pretty simple. Now let's jump right into its code. I've already wrote the simple code for the UI of the project. So this is the HTML. The thing to note here is this decrement button, which will comes at first, and this counter span, which will have the number that is incremented or decremented, and then we have this increment button, and at last we have this reset button. So these 4 elements should be considered first. The rest is just decorations. And for the styling, I've used really simple CSS, and the code is really short because I've edited the HTML using Bootstrap, so you can also try that. Now we will write our JavaScript. So for this, first of all, I'll assign the constants of the first 4 elements that I have mentioned earlier. Alright then, you may have noticed that there's a variable here in addition to all of those 4 constants. This is here because it determines the value of the counter, the value inside the counter, whether it is 10, 20, 30, whatever. It determines that value, so we'll manipulate it throughout to make the project dynamic. The next stuff to get done is to add event listener to all of the 3 buttons. First, the increment button dot add event listener, and whenever the user clicks on it, the increment function gets activated. So I'll repeat this process for the rest of the 2. Alright then, the next step to do is to create the functions that are mentioned here on the event listeners. So function increment function decrement, and at last function reset. There we go. Now we'll work on the increment function. So whenever the user clicks on the increment button, this function gets activated. So we'll increment the counter value, which is initially at 0 by 1 plus 1. So it will add 1 to its value. If it's 10, then it will add 1 and make it 11. And then we will embed this value inside the counter by using text content function for it to get displayed. Alright then, let's check it out. Now let's test it out. So whenever I click on it, the number is supposed to get incremented and become 1. So yeah, we can see that there's an error. I'll explain it in a bit inside the code, and let's fix it. So the reason the error occurred is because that our JavaScript interpreted the counter value as a string, which we don't want it to be. For example, this is taking it as a string value. So if we add 1 to a string value, it will not increment it, but will add it and write it next to it. For example, 1 plus 1, 11, 1 plus 2, 12. It will write it as such. So to fix it, JavaScript has an inbuilt method by the name of number. So it converts any type of data into a number. and I'll write it like this, and yeah, it will fix it. Now let's check it out. Now let's check it. If we click on this increment button, there we go, it is now working finally. So let's go back to the code and make these buttons functional too. We will work on the decrement button now. So whenever the user clicks on the decrement button, this decrement function gets activated, and inside this we'll repeat the process count to value equals to count equals to number, so that it doesn't interpret it as a string, and the counter value will be now subtracted by 1. And now we'll embed this value so that it will get displayed on the screen equals to counter value. Yeah, now let's check it out. Before checking the project, I'll like to correct an error here by me, because I had used increment btn on all of these trees, but that shouldn't be the case. You should edit it as such. Now it's time to check it. If I click on this button, yeah, it's incrementing. And now if I click on this button, yes, it is decrementing. But there's a slight error here. If I keep on clicking on decrement, we can see that it is going on to negative numbers that we don't want. So we'll use an if and conditionals to remove this error. So to fix that, we'll use simple if-else conditionals. So first, if the counter value is equals to 0. So what we want, if that it is equals to 0, then it shouldn't further decrement it. So we'll assign the counter value as 0. So it will assign its value 0 whenever we click on the decrement button, and if the counter value is already at 0. And all the else statement, if it is not 0, greater than 0 if it is, then we'll paste this code. So now let's check it out. It should work. Now let's check it. Yeah, as you can see that it is not decrementing further, it is incrementing, but when it reaches 0, it is not decrementing. And now let's go to the code and make this reset button functional too, because we should be able to reset it at 0. To do that, we'll go to the reset function and then assign the counter value 0. Yeah, simple as that. And we'll embed this value here using text content. So yeah, this was it. Now let's check it out. Yes. Now let's put it on the test. If I click on the reset button, it should take it to 0. Yeah, which is it doing. So now we have a fully functional digital counter, which we have just made using a really simple and tiny code of JavaScript. So I really hope you like this video and this project also. The link of the project and its source code will be provided in the description if you are interested. And yeah, with that, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace out.